Hello Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile. With me again, Alison McKenzie. And we're going to talk in this podcast a little bit of Saturday's match. Very important win for Lazio against Sampdoria. But obviously, I think so. The Lazio's playing against this Tuesday. I don't remember. I think it's a friendly match. So we have to a little bit talk about this match that, we always talk about every single match about Lazio, but Alasdair, seeing also the results of this Sunday, winning against Sampdoria was really, really fundamental. So my first question is, were you surprised to see Inzaghi selecting what we can call the starting 11 with the exception of Lulic because Lazzari, we all know, couldn't play? Or were you expecting more turnover considering that Tuesday is an important match for Lazio?
No, I mean, I think that was kind of the last thing we spoke about in the last podcast, I think, was this would be a great opportunity to play Murici and Pereira and the rest, but we don't think it's going to happen. And lo and behold, it didn't happen. So, I mean, I guess in the end, you can't criticise the decision, can you? Because Lazio got the win, got like you said, a win that's turned out to be very important over this weekend. And emerged unscathed from it in terms of injuries or anything else that could have gone horribly wrong in that time. So the players have had a day off today to rest. They'll then be able to focus on the Bayern match on Monday, and we're back. So yeah, I think it's all worked out quite well. And obviously Bayern Munich have had a difficult weekend, which we'll get onto too. So But, you already know this, but I relied on my Skybox recording this game for me, and it failed me. So I'm going to have to completely rely on you for anything beyond the highlights that I've seen. But how was the performance in general in terms of kind of building up towards that Bayern game? Were you pleased with what you saw?
Well, to be honest, we struggled in the second half. I think, and this is one of the biggest problems of this team, we didn't play bad. We missed too many chances. And, when you go ahead, then you have a couple of opportunities in the first half. Correa missed a couple of good chances in the first half. Ciro Immobile had another couple again. So you could have finished the first half easily 3-0 ahead. In the second half, again, you had a couple of good chances and you missed them. And then you know what happens when you miss so many chances, right? Is the not written law of football. If you miss too many chances, then the other team is going to create something and maybe they're going to score. So we struggle in the last 5-10 minutes because we didn't close the match before. And this, Alasdair, is something that happened a lot this year. I mean, the fact that Lazio is, of the top 7, the team that have scored less, it's simply based to that, right? Lazio have scored only against Sampdoria in the other leg, Lazio didn't score a goal. In all the other Serie A matches, Lazio scored. But still, Lazio of the top 7 is the team that have scored less goal. This is because we win too many matches 1-0. We miss too many chances. And against Sampdoria, that was the perfect example. Lazio played much more, but had more chances than Sampdoria, but scored only 1 goal.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, the quality, the frustrating thing seems to be that the quality of chances that Lazio created was actually pretty high. And, I haven't had a chance to look at the XG or anything like that, but I expect that it would have predicted a bigger scoreline than 1-0 because got those 2 chances for Ciro, granted on his left foot, but you'd probably expect him to do better. The Murici one was a bit of a howler, to be honest. I mean, that was a really bad miss. And I guess, like you say, it hasn't come back to bite us this time, but you are worried that at some point in the future it will. And it's strange, that there's so many teams in Serie A this season where it seems like they're being led by one player. Lazio are being led by Immobile for goals this year, really. Alberto has been stepping up, but if Immobile is not putting those chances away, it does damage Lazio's chances. I'm not criticising Immobile because he's having another great season, but I think that if he's not putting away the decent chances he gets, it does make it harder work for everyone else. Because I don't think there's maybe a clinical enough attack in the rest of the team.
Yeah, to be honest, it wasn't the best performance from Ciro Immobile against Sampdoria. He had, I think, in total something like 4 chances he missed. They weren't very easy, but you expect Ciro to score that. This is the level of confidence we have with Ciro Immobile. I think, especially against Sampdoria, Lazio was too cute. Correa had 2 terrific chances, and he didn't even shot on target because he tried to dribble past for the 3rd time a defender instead of, you're in the penalty box, first dribbling, okay, then you have to shoot on target. And this happened twice in the first half. In the second half, I don't know if you saw it, Milinkovic Savic was in front of the goalkeeper. Why are you passing the ball? Go there and score. Instead, he passed the ball to Murici and didn't see that Murici was marked. So we wasted a huge opportunity. Milinkovic from there simply had to even dribble past the goalkeeper or shoot from there. Probably he would have scored anyway. So I can understand when you're 3-0 ahead, you're dominating, the match is over, you want to score cute goals, etc. But it was 1-0 against Sampdoria. You have to finish that match, right? Because then you never know what can happen.
I think Milinkovic is just addicted to assists now, isn't he? It's become his thing, so he'd rather try and put it on the plate for Murici. I'm actually interested in, having not seen the full 90 minutes, in the performances of the other 3 players in the team whose names begin with M, which is Murici, Marasic, and Musacchio. Wow. So I'll start with Musacchio because we talked about that with the Inter game particularly, the fact that we found it really strange Inzaghi's defensive selection and how he talked about wanting a left-footed player on the left, so blah, blah, blah. And then he goes and plays Musacchio on the left. So how did he do, first of all, and did he stay there the whole game as well?
I thought he played great, to be honest with you. I thought maybe not perfect, but nearly perfect. And that was a huge surprise for me. But yeah, he really played well. So that's, I don't know if create more questions or solve some question, because then why didn't he play against Inter? And the other thing is, does Inzaghi believe that he can play central left and right and central right, but not in the center of the Lazio defense? But yeah, I thought probably the best defender. I didn't like again Acerbi against Sampdoria Saturday. He wasn't perfect. So I thought Musacchio played really well, and we have to say that Marusic was terrific Saturday. I don't know if it was his best performance, but definitely one of his best. He played great back on his side because Lulic started, and I don't know if you're gonna ask me about Lulic, but he looked like a player that missed 1 year of football. He struggled a lot, and he didn't finish all the match. Fares came in. Fares started well, and then looked to me like he lost confidence and got worse by the minute. So Marusic probably, I don't know if man of the match, but definitely one of the best with Musacchio, to be honest with you. And who was the third?
Murici.
Well, he missed a big chance there. To be honest, Zapata just did something the same with Atalanta, so it's something that can happen. Again, I think when he comes in, he fights a lot. The thing is, that was the type of situation where you want maybe a player like Correa to come in instead of a player like Murici that is slow and need the ball high in the box, where Lazio was playing counter-attack. That is not probably the best quality of Murici. I was surprised that Murici didn't start. I thought that was the perfect match for him to start. But yeah, a lot of fans on the social platform complain about Murici. I didn't feel that was his worst performance, to be honest, with Lazio.
It's just the kind of chance that he needs to be taking. Yeah. I think with the progress that he's been making recently, it's the last thing he needed, really, because all the people who doubt him, and look, there's reasons for people to doubt him because if the club's spending that much money, they expect better, and that's fine. But it's if people are going to believe in his progress and his development, he can't afford to be making mistakes like that, because there's nothing. That's nothing to do with how settled he is in the team or how adapted he is to Serie A or anything. That's just missing a bad chance. I wonder how left-footed he is after seeing that, to be honest, because I have noticed when he plays that he does lean quite heavily on it. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to hear you say that about Lulic. I was wondering if Marisic, at some part of his mind, must have been hoping that Lulic would have a good game so that he might be able to play a bit more regularly on the right. But because it sounds like it was just the kind of performance where he kind of reminds everyone that he's been playing out of position all season. You know, it's quite easy to forget because we've got so used to him playing on the left, but he is a right-sided player, and surprise, surprise, when he's played on the right, he has a good game.
Well, to be honest, he played well also on the other side in the past couple of months or so. So that's important, especially, to be honest with you. Fares started well when he came in because obviously Lulic didn't have the 90 minutes. He was sub beginning of the second half. You can see that he wasn't able to continue. Fares came in, started well, but didn't continue as well. So that's a big problem because my concern is that we don't have that many options on the other side. So I think Marusic will be forced to move to the other side when Lazzari will come back. So Lulic need to improve. Fares wasn't great. So yeah. The other thing, Alice, that I wanted to talk to you is Keita's performance. We were all concerned about Keita, and he was very nervous, to be honest with you. You could see that he really wanted to score. He was mad, and he was quite nervous. He tried to do some silly jokes with Luis Alberto to get him nervous. So, you know, it was a typical match where you have the impression this guy wants badly to score, and maybe he had a celebration ready for us if he scored. So, yeah, I thought maybe he was too anxious. He didn't play that well, especially with the Lazio defense that was struggling. I thought they managed Keita very well. Keita and Candreva didn't do that much, fortunately for us, which is quite rare because normally a former Lazio player always score against us. So that was a nice break for us. But yeah, I was expecting. When was it? Before the match, Keita said, this is my home. It's always good to be back here. I have a lot of friends. It didn't seem like that on the pitch. It seemed like he wanted to get a revenge or something like that. And yeah, sometimes, you know, when you want it too bad, you're not able to focus and play well. He was subbed in the second half, and he wasn't happy at all to come off the pitch. But yeah, I thought Ranieri had to do it because Keita didn't do nothing in the second half.
Yeah, I have to admit it was a bit of a relief to get through that match without either of those guys scoring because it was something we're just waiting to happen. Just before we move on to other matters, there are a couple of statistical things I wanted to pick up on. First of all, that Simone Inzaghi has now got 100 wins in Serie A, which I think is a really impressive landmark considering he's done it in 182 games. Because apparently that's the only managers who have ever reached 100 wins sooner were Antonio Conte, Maurizio Sarri, and who was the other one? Fabio Capello. So that's pretty impressive, Vittorio. Considering he's been at Lazio the whole time, obviously a big team, but not a team that's winning Scudetto every year. I mean,
yeah, that's incredible, right? Especially because you can think Capello started with the great Milan, so that was an amazing team, right? That was one of the best probably team we ever saw in Italy. Who was the other one?
Sarri and Conte. I mean, Conte started at Juve, and well, actually no, I suppose he was at Siena first. But I mean, yes, it's really impressive though.
Yes, because Sarri and Conte basically had 1 year with a small team and then immediately to Juventus, or Napoli. So they step up immediately, while Inzaghi continued with Lazio and was very consistent. And well, it's not a secret with Simone Inzaghi, Lazio has been every single year except 1 year fighting for the Champions League position. So this tells you that Lazio have won a lot of matches. So yeah, an unbelievable achievement. we would be very happy to celebrate this achievement with a new contract, but no news about it. So I don't know.
Still waiting.
Yeah.
Still watching the clock with that. I mean, the other one was about the home form, and this kind of took me by surprise for some reason. I don't know why, but it kind of has gone under the radar for me a little bit. That's 7 home wins in a row now in all competitions. In that time, Lazio have conceded 3 goals in 7 games. And apparently have scored in 19 home games in a row now as well. So the home form has kind of completely flipped around, hasn't it? I mean, that doesn't seem like that long ago we were talking about that as being a cause of concern, is that Lazio were missing the fans and not managing to get the energy they needed in those home matches. So that's pretty encouraging before Bayern turn up.
Yeah, can we say that probably the team now is used to play without fans, and they found a way to focus without them? I mean, we said it before that one of the secrets of the success of Lazio at home was the fans. And so when they lost them, they missed something. And now finally they find a way to refocus even on the home game. I was seeing before the podcast that, for example, Atalanta at home is terrible. I think they lost only 2 matches away and 5 at home. So it's not only Lazio struggling. A lot of teams have struggled. So it's really important because, usually at home is where you win more matches, and it would be really important for Lazio to continue this streak, especially now that we are back there fighting for the Champions League. Napoli lost point, so Milan is not impressive anymore. So we need to continue this home stick winning.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, starting with Bayern on Tuesday. I mean, it's an interesting... we kind of touched on it briefly before, the fact that it seems to be, if anything, coming at a bit of a good time in terms of where Lazio's form is going and where the direction Bayern's form has been going. But now this weekend, Vitória Bayern were beaten 2-1 by Eintracht Frankfurt, having drawn 3-3 the week before with Arminia Bielefeld, having played the Club World Cup. Maybe they're a bit tired from that. I mean, it's Bayern Munich, so let's not get too carried away here. But it's been quite interesting to follow that ahead of this game.
Yeah, at the same time, Alistair, can we think Bayern Munich can lose 2 matches in a row? That's, I would prefer Bayern to win this weekend. So, they regroup and think, okay, we passed the bad moment. Instead, losing again this weekend, drawing it last week, is not a good sign for me. They are struggling because they had a lot of players out for COVID. So we don't know who's going to be available for Lazio match. So this is definitely a bonus. But we could find a very angry Bayern Munich because they're probably the best team in Europe, and they want to show everybody that this is just a coincidence, a bad moment that is going to end soon. So, yeah, it's definitely not going to be easy. Let's not forget that Lazio will be, I don't know, with Musacchio and Patrick playing. So, we are not in a good situation as well. Let's not forget that.
God, Musacchio and Patrick against Lewandowski is something that is going to keep me awake at night, I think. Yeah, I mean, I should point out that we have a video on our Patreon page with a Bundesliga expert, Stefan Biakowski, another freelance journalist. I spoke to him last week, and we spoke for about 10-15 minutes about Bayern and the situation they're in and the strengths and weaknesses and so on. And it was quite interesting, I thought, to hear him say, without really much prompting from me, as far as I remember, that where teams can really get at Bayern is by hitting them on the break, because apparently they've been exposed in that way quite a lot. But Hansi Flick has decided to continue with a really high line defensively, despite having guys like Jerome Boateng or Nicolas Süle, who aren't that quick. And that's something we were talking about just last week with the Inter game. Is that's the game plan Lazio almost want in these big matches, is for teams to come and play that way. So it'll be interesting to see if Bayern do that. And then the next question being if Lazio can have the quality to, break through that press, because it's going to probably be a lot harder than it is in the games they're used to playing every week.
Yes, definitely. And I think Luis Alberto, Correa, Immobile will be fundamental in that match, because we know that Luis Alberto is able to find lines to serve Immobile and Correa in front of the keeper. But in that match, it's really, really important to take every chances. You're not going to have many. So the few you're going to have, you have to score, because you're playing against Bayern Munich. They're not going to, make it easy to you. So we know that Lewandowski, if he has a couple of chances, he will score. So for Lazio, it's really fundamental to take every chances they have. And then the biggest question, Alistair, is I didn't see Acerbi playing great in the last couple of weeks. Playing against Lewandowski, that could be a huge concern. Let's not forget that Hutt could be playing. I don't know if Inzaghi will risk him against Bayern Munich, but we don't have that many options there, because the only defenders available are Musacchio, Patrick, Hutt, and Acerbi, right? So do you think he will choose the same team that he picked for Sampdoria?
Unless this is the night that Inzaghi finally puts Nicolo Armini in the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to expect that. I mean, not the same team as against Samp, because Lazio will be back, so I expect he'll probably put Maricic back on the left and Lazio on the right. But other than that, yeah, I mean, it kind of has to be, doesn't it? Like you say, there's, I think on another week, there would have been a very good chance of Hutt starting in the centre, Acerbi on the left, Musacchio on the right. But I just, with everything that's happened with Wesley Hutt recently, I'm not sure if he will do that or not. It is possible, because he's used him there in the Champions League and so on, but I just think when you're up against a striker like Robert Lewandowski, I mean, we saw it against Inter. If you've got a really, really tricky striker, you need your best man-marking centre-back to be in the middle, really, who's Acerbi, and Inzaghi made that sacrifice against Inter and moved into the left, and as a result, we struggled. So I just think that if we're up against Lewandowski, we need our best defender on him, which is Acerbi. And I know it's not going to be that simple. He's not going to be chasing him around all night, but he is going to be operating largely through the middle of the pitch. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the one decision to make as far as I can see.
Yeah, but on the other side, then you choose Patrick. And does Patrick concern you against Bayern Munich? I thought he played well against Sampdoria, and I can understand why Inzaghi is picking him, especially against small team, because Patrick is very good with his foot. We saw him advance and, helping the midfield of Lazio, especially with teams that, like Sampdoria, are very good defending. You can start from the back. That is something that Inzaghi loves. And Patrick definitely helps more than other defenders. The problem is against a big team like Bayern Munich, where defenders should first defend and then start attacking. Is Patrick the right solution for Lazio?
Well, it was actually when I tweeted earlier asking people for questions for the podcast, it was the first one we got from Samir Kazim was, do you prefer Hutt or Patrick to play? And it's not really the kind of question you want to be answering ahead of a Champions League knockout game against Bayern Munich, but this is where we are. I don't really know who I prefer to play, to be honest. I think that it's almost they're two opposites in that Patrick, you're more concerned about overconfidence, and Hutt, you're more concerned about underconfidence. But they're both kind of equally capable of making a costly mistake for different reasons. And I do think if the plan is to play through a Bayern press and exploit that space, we're better off with Patrick, because we need players who are better at constructing the play from the back. And Wesley Hutt's, that's not one of his great talents. But if we do have Wesley Hutt in the middle, and we put Mizakio on the right, it does at least mean that everyone is kind of on their stronger foot. Whereas Mizakio's had one game playing on the left, although you've given him a great review and I trust you, it's not exactly a lot of time to be getting used to that idea. And if you look at what Bayern's attack and the wingers they've got and the attacking midfielders they've got, it's a really difficult decision for Inzaghi to make, how to get the balance right.
Yeah, and we have to say something. It's true that it's not Messi, but Patrick played against Keita Saturday. And as I said during this podcast, Keita was really, really trying to score. And we have to say that Patrick neutralized him quite well. I think one of the reasons why Keita was nervous is because a couple of times Patrick was able to stop him, even when we know how fast Keita is. And he's skilled, he can dribble past you quite easily. He wasn't able to do it with Patrick, which was quite surprising. But, that should give us a level of confidence with Patrick, especially when he's focused. Patrick can be a very good defender. Now, I hope that against a team like Bayern Munich, he won't be overconfident because, you're playing probably the best team in Europe. So, you should be focused for 95 minutes. So that's my hope. And then I think Leva would be fundamental. We saw how important he is in big matches because he can protect our three-man defense like nobody else. So I think he would be the key. And the fact that he was subbed in the second half against Sampdoria quite early tells me that Inzaghi said, okay, I need you on Tuesday, so you have to rest now because I need you full strength next Tuesday against Bayern. And I think that will be probably, I know people will think Luis Alberto, Milinkovic-Savic. I think Leva could be really the key of success for Lazio on Tuesday.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of the times when we've seen Lazio have a big game performance, it's coincided with Lucas having a big performance as well. And that's not a coincidence because he is the kind of tactical linchpin to the entire side, really. And if he's on form, if he's hoovering up the ball and not letting the opposition play through the midfield and playing passes to get the dangerous players into good positions, then it makes so much difference. His form this season's obviously been a bit hot and cold. I think he's been very good at times and quite disappointing at other times. So we just don't really know what Lucas Leiva we're going to get. But I just hope he's, of all the players in the squad, he's one of the ones who's got the experience and got the kind of cool head, or should do at least in these kind of matches, because he's been there before at least, which a lot of other players don't. I hope also Pepe Reina's, there's been a lot of talk about experience when it comes to Pepe Reina, but if that is to be one of his big attributes that keeps Strakosha out of the team, then he needs to show it on a night like this. We need him to step up and be a real leader on the pitch and help that defence as much as he can. It's worth remembering. It sounds a bit obvious, but this game is played over two legs, so we can't get too focused on how to beat Bayern in this one match. And we can't give too much away as well. It's a difficult challenge because if you're conceding away goals at home, the task of getting anything from the Allianz Stadium is going to be massive. So Lazio really need to win this. If it stands a chance of winning the tie, they have to be winning the home game, and preferably without conceding. So they need to play the perfect game, I think, is what I'm saying. I think everything needs to go perfectly.
Yeah, definitely. It's true, again, we repeated that Bayern is not playing amazing football, but it's still Bayern Munich. I think experience is really important in this type of matches. And to be honest, Lazio doesn't have that big experience. So, and on the other side, it's not like Atalanta that is playing an awful Real Madrid. Bayern Munich is, as I repeat, the best team in Europe. So we are playing the best team in Europe that has a lot of experience. So I think it's the worst opponent for us. So we really, really need to play our best. It's not, I repeat, Real Madrid that is a huge club, but it's terrible this season. This is a huge club that play great football and probably the best team in Europe. Said this, I think Lazio has the key to to defeat Bayern Munich because they are very slow in defense. And if Chiro and Correa play at the top level, Lazio can score. Obviously, it would be very important to not concede. And I didn't like Reina's performance on Saturday. I thought he made a couple of mistakes that if Strakosha would have made it, I believe our listener would be asking when would Lazio take off Strakosha. So this is not, for me, the best intro for the match because I think Reina will have to play a great match. I think Bayern will shoot a lot on target next Tuesday, so we need the best Reina possible. But yeah, I think it's achievable. It's not impossible. But, 70-30% for Bayern Munich, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably reasonable. I think, like you say, Lazio do at least have the weapons to cause problems. They do have a squad that's capable of winning this game. That's not the issue, is that we just lack the quality and that's it. I don't think that's the problem. It's more how they cope with the occasion, how they cope with Bayern's style of play, and how they cope with Bayern's star players. How you keep Robert Lewandowski quiet. Nobody knows the answer to that because he's been unstoppable for so long. But yeah, I mean, it's like I say, I think they're going to need to have one of their really, really big night performances again.
Well, Acerbi stopped him in the national team, right? He didn't score against Italy when he played with Poland, so that's a little bit of confidence. The other thing, Alistair, before we wrap it up, is we have nothing to lose. I mean, if we lose 3-0 against Bayern, is nothing unexpected. So I hope this gives Lazio, when you have nothing to lose, you can play the best football sometimes. So I hope this is Lazio moment. And, with nothing to lose, with nothing to prove, Lazio can play a great performance and maybe win this match.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, I would encourage people to go on our Patreon page if they can to watch the video with Stefan, because it's interesting to get a bit of insight into what's going on there. A bit of stuff about Dortmund as well, and how they kind of viewed Lazio as a draw in Germany and things as well. Before we do stop though, Vittorio, we do have another big topic to talk about, because we've had a few people messaging us about it. So there was development this week in the COVID testing story again, which is that the Italian FA have basically deferred Lazio Lotito.
Don't cry.
I feel like that sometimes. And the club doctors to the national court. So the investigation, I guess, continues. Their investigation has found that Lazio have been a bit naughty. So as a result, to say the least, as a result, we've had a lot of people kind of getting in touch. We're quite worried about the stories about Lazio getting relegated and so on. I mean, I hate to hand this to you on a plate, but can you, or do you want to talk about this and what's going on and what the likelihood is of what punishments are going to happen?
Well, the news of today is that your position is the worst. You're in serious dangers. I think they're going to kick you out of Italy. But apart from that, the biggest concern about these things that happened to Lazio is that 85% of the Italian press said that Lazio is guilty, and have no doubt Lazio won't be just fine. They will be relegated, and the 26th of May will be given to Roma, etc., etc. So we have to remember that there are 4 levels of penalties. The first is a fine, then there's inhibition, then there's points lost, and then there is relegation. Gazzetta dello Sport already decided that Lazio will be relegated. So, we are dead and that's it. The true fact is that Lazio believed that there was a problem of communication. Lazio believed that the clinic should have alerted the medical federation of these positive cases and not Lazio. And the other thing is Lazio will prove that they have been 15 minutes from the communication of, who was it, Leiva, Strakosha and Immobile positive, to when the players were stopped to play. So there's a 15 minutes gap, and that's where Lazio are going to say, hey, we had 15 minutes, we did it, we are fine. So that's the thing. The other thing is, it looks like the inquiries weren't able to prove that the tests in Avellino were positive. So, you know, there are some question marks there. So I know ESPN, etc., said that Lazio will be punished, suspension, etc. I think the most likely thing will be a fine and 1 month of inhibition to Lazio's doctor. I think that could be the worst case scenario for Lazio.
Yeah, it's interesting that that they have singled out the doctors and Lotito more than the club itself. I think the club were kind of attached at the bottom of the statement. So that's interesting. It's also worth pointing out that Lazio, did respond to this with a statement by saying that they trust in sporting justice, and that basically denying any wrongdoing, and say they said something about how it's a matter of interpretation of the rules, which is interesting. I mean, I guess the issue is, like it has been all along, that this is the latest development in a story that it's actually quite hard to really get much of a read on exactly what's going on or exactly what has happened, because there are so many different sources of information kind of saying different things about it. And we said at the start today, we kind of signed off on this story by saying, well, we just basically have to wait until the investigation's over before we know more. And now the investigation's over, but we don't really know a lot more, apart from the fact that what Lazio are being kind of accused of is, like you say, not reporting cases to the local health authority. They didn't stop players from going to a training session after they were positive. And then there was the third one, was having the asymptomatic player who wasn't put in isolation and was then involved in a Serie A game, which I think is Ciro Immobile.
But for example, Lazio replied saying that the ASL said to Lazio, give the okay to Lazio, because Ciro Immobile afterwards made 2 tests and they both was negative. So you see, the info is not correct. And then there is this thing, guys. Reply to the tweet when we are going to promote this podcast and tell me, did you know that Juventus last summer failed to do 4 COVID tests to their player? They had to do it the day after the match, and they didn't. They did it a couple of days later. And Gazzetta didn't write it, Tuttosport didn't write it, nobody wrote it. We found out just because the doctor of Juventus was fined for 4 Ks. So how bizarre is it, this? Right? I guess nobody knew it. We found out a couple of months ago because suddenly we read, well, Juventus didn't do the test as the day expected. They do it a day afterwards, and the doctor was fined for this. So you see how things can be different from team to team. Juventus responded, well, it was the day off of these players, so we couldn't do the test. In a week where you're playing every 3 days, it's curious that every time they had to do the test, they had a day off. But, it's quite curious that everybody is angry against Lazio when Juventus does it. Well, we're not going to talk about it. So I think this could help a lot Lazio in this case.
Yeah, I think at least the threat of relegation is the big shock headline that a lot of people have gone for, and the reason it's there is because it is written into the rules around this that is the maximum punishment. But so it's not completely fabricated that it is a possibility. But I just think that it sounds like for that to happen, there would have to be kind of gross misbehavior, really, which is endangering other people and a danger to public health, essentially. So and it doesn't sound like, or at least it sounds like there's enough grey area that's not likely to happen. So like you say, well, we need to wait and see, but it could be anything from a fine points deduction, but
Yeah,
I can't see Lazio getting relegated for this.
just to give some more info, we heard website newspaper writing that Lazio will lose the match against Torino Juventus because Immobile played those matches, which is impossible because the match have been confirmed. So Lazio can lose points, but it's not that Torino, like Gazzetta dello Sport would love to, gets the 3-point match won against Lazio. That's not possible, but we saw it on the social, etc. So there's a lot of disinformation. As Alex has said, the worst case scenario is relegation, but this will happen only if they prove that, Lotito knew that these players was positive and said, okay, we don't care, we're gonna hide all this and we're gonna play these players, which we know we didn't happen because in the Champions League all these players didn't play. Strakosha wasn't there, Leva wasn't there in the Serie A matches. So as a couple of experts of football jurisdiction said, the maximum would be a fine and a month of inhibition for the Lazio doctor. Then, to be honest, in Italy, you never show what's going to happen, right? Especially with law in Italy. So anything can happen. But, if it looks to me that that's going to be the final decision, right? Fine and maybe inhibition for the doctor.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it is worth pointing out we're not, well, I'm not anyway, just saying Lazio have done nothing wrong here. It sounds like they have made a complete mess of this. And, even if they've not been doing everything that they've been claimed to have been doing, it does sound like they've really not been as sensible and as kind of paying as close attention to it perhaps as they should have done to end up in this situation in the first place. So it's not completely come out of nowhere, but again, I think that all we can really do is wait and see what the next stage is, because at the moment, like you say, you have some lawyers coming out and saying their opinion on this is that this will happen, and then other lawyers will come out and say their opinion on it is this is going to happen.
Yes and no, because this is unique case. So, you cannot say, well, everybody did like that. The other example is, I remember Roma playing at Genoa and 3 players were positive less than 24 hours after the match, and they were there and nothing happened. But, they were there at Genoa. Monday morning, they play on Sunday afternoon. Monday morning, 3 of these players was positive. So, are we sure Roma did everything fine? Like, I'm not sure about that. I mean, you cannot know because it's unique, right? It's the first time, and we hope the last time, that a virus like that change our way of life. So, I think there are some gray areas, and Lazio simply being caught in that great situation. So we're gonna see what happens. It's just add an extra layer of mystery in this already mysterious Lazio season, right?
Yeah, to say the least, yeah. Just another thing to keep on top of. But yeah, I think we can leave that at that for now. But yeah, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on, and hopefully reassuring people that we're not going to be in Serie B, or at least we hope we're not anytime soon.
Well, look the positive side. If Lazio goes to Serie B, Lotito has to choose or Salernitana or Lazio, right?
Yeah, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay, thank you again, Alistair. Thanks, everybody. Remember that you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. There is this special about Bayern Munich there. So, if you want to hear it, it's $2 a month. You can find our podcast on Spreaker, Spotify, and everywhere you listen to your podcast. So please subscribe to our podcast and rate a review on iTunes, please. Good night, everybody, and we're going to talk about Lazio after Bayern Lazio match. Good night.
Cheers.